Ryan here from Tiques. Right now we're at the Iroquois Lacrosse Park. Here for my provincial championship for lacrosse, representing the Fort Erie Hawks. It's going to be a fun time. Just got finished our first game. It was a tie, sadly. Just going to walk around and enjoy all the cool lacrosse vendors here. And then can't wait to do some antiquing on the side at some flea markets and antique stores. Okay, so the Toronto trip, definitely a lot of fun. A few mishaps, but other than that, it's a lot of fun. You know, I'll start off in chronological order. What happened? Night before, kind of the night before, more like a few hours before I left. Went to the John Fogerty concert, favorite ever singer. Finally got to see him in concert. Fun as shit concert, okay? And then basically go home, rest for like 3 hours, then leave. The bridge, holy gun, dude. They had one lane open. And there was probably about 20 cars in the line. So that kind of sucked. But after that, you know, it was a smooth drive in, slept most of the way. Got there, played the first game against, was it Stainer? Stainer Hitman.
Like Stainer Shitman.
we had him beat. It was like 4-0 at one point. I scored the first goal. Heck gun, no more goon. Hashtag no more goon.
He's better than Rory Smith.
I'm better than Rory Smith now. Okay,
Rory Smith, that's a call out. Come at us, bro.
Rory's actually my favorite player, so Rory, if you're watching this, probably not though. So yeah, scored the first goal. Pretty pumped then. End up a few mishaps happened. One of our players had sort of a heart attack, sort of not a heart attack on the floor. Well, after the floor.
The bitch attack.
Don't really know what it was.
Dude, he had 3 energy drinks.
Oh god.
He had a 5-hour energy. He had coffee.
I heard he just had the. I heard he didn't have Red Bull.
He did have Red Bull.
No, that's what what his parents said and what he said after that.
He had 3.
Well, whatever gun. Anyway, gun. So then the second game was against, was it Huntsville?
Yeah.
Huntsville. Had a girl goalie, dude. Heck gun. Double gunned it. Anyway, I think it was like my second shift into the game. Go for a hit, and I put my head down, hit the guy, and he did not move, so it was like a brick wall. Hashtag brick wall. My head just went in there, and right after, I was dazed, huge headache, couldn't breathe for a few seconds. Iced it for about 5 minutes, went back on, stood up for one of our teammates there. Did you see that with Clark? In the corner there, bud?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, guy was like chirping him, shoving him. I just like shoved Clark aside. I'm like, boom, what's up, gun? And that was over. He went in the box, and then after, you know, my arm starts getting numb and tingling and shit. So I tell the trainer, he's like, oh, you got a concussion, bud. I'm like, damn it. So they ended up calling an ambulance, and you know, it's only my second time I think I've been in a Canadian hospital. holy shit, Canada, get your healthcare straightened out, okay, gun? All the time people say, you know, all the time talk about, oh, Canada healthcare, all great and shit. You go in there by ambulance in the States. When you go by ambulance, you go straight to a room once, you know, you're in an ambulance. No, they have you sit first at around the nurse's desk, and I sat there for about 20 minutes, and then they get you in a wheelchair. Paramedic shoves you into the waiting room, is like, here, gun. And then I wait in there for 4 hours. Nobody calls my name. Go up there and say, like, oh, you know, where am I on the waiting list? Oh, sir, we can't tell you that. That's confidential information. Like, okay, gun. And then I just left. Pretty sure I had a concussion though. So, had to sit out most of the games. I think at that point did we go? No, it was the day after we went mantiquing.
Yeah.
So we played Six Nations. We ended up, the Huntsville game we ended up losing, right? Was it 5-1? 5-1? 2-1? 5-2. Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, we ended up losing that game, and then Six Nations, I couldn't play, even though I begged my coaches and whatnot to let me play, but I couldn't. Ended up winning 5-2. I think it was 5-2. Yeah. We ended up winning 5-2, yes. And great game, and then that got us into qualifiers for the knockout rounds, which quarterfinals we were against Oshawa, the Blue Knights. We got the first goal. Was, I think we went after the first with a lead, right? Or it was tied or something like that. And after that, it just like slowly got worse and worse and worse, and they ended up winning 6-2. Yeah. So that ended our OLA provincials, and for most of us, that ends our minor lacrosse career. Some will move on to junior, some will quit lacrosse, what have you.
Some will still suck no matter how good they get. Fucking Owen.
So yeah, and then we went mantiquing. So our first time going mantiquing, I found this place. Well, first, before I even drove there, I mapped out all this shit, find out where the places were at, and we go to this place called Merchants Market, right where we're staying in Scarborough, which is like a suburb of Toronto, and it looked good, to be honest with you. Looking up online, looked kind of promising. They're like, oh yeah, we got like 300 vendors. We walk in there and it's shit. Hashtag fail tiquing. Fail tiques. Whatever you want to call it. It was horrible. Not a single like antique, mantique, nothing teak. It was like all, there was like a big used jewelry store, sketchy ass
pirated
jewelry, or pirated DVDs, pirated CDs, and then everything else was just like clothes. Like really like knockoff brand name clothes. Some guy was selling, was it like luggage? Did you see that, the luggage place? And it still had the luggage tags on it. It's like, would you go and steal that shit? And they're selling for like $5. So that was shady. We were probably only there about 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. We literally like walked around in a circle.
We walked around in a circle, barely ever stopped, and walked out. It was just shit. And then there was a Salvation Army thrift shop right next to it. And usually when I see a thrift shop, I go in it. Usually there's nothing, but you gotta look. And we go in there, and compared to all other Salvation Armies, it was basically like literally all clothes. I mean, I know most thrift stores are just clothes, but literally it was just rows and rows and rows and rows of just clothes. And like they made it actually like look like it was almost like a department store, didn't they? They kind of made it look good. And the only games I ended up finding were mainly when you go into a Salvation Army, you want to look up at the front cashier in the glass cases. That's usually almost always where they put their games. I looked in there, they had a few PS2 games, that was it. Then when we were walking by, we saw the electronics section, go in there, found a PS2 controller, and like some like flip up like 6-in-1 game or whatever. And we walked out of that empty-handed. So we were kind of discouraged. We should call this fail tiques. And then we looked up online about the Pickering flea market, right? And we drove by that on the way back from one of our games, and it looked really good, but it was closed, I think, by the time we drove by. So we're like, oh, we'll just hit it up the next day. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. Ryan here, the Pickering flea market. They also got the antique market over there. So definitely looks more promising than our last flea market, so can't wait to get in there. So when we get to the Pickering flea market, we see all these signs and vendor lists, and on the vendor list they actually listed a few video game, not retailers, sellers, resellers. And so that definitely looked promising for us. Drive up there, They were split into 4 sections. They were all connected, but they had 4 sections. One section of the building was called Antique Mall. Second was the flea market. Third was the farmer's market, and the next was just the trade market, which I think is kind of like sketchy clothing, like we saw at Merchants Market. So we started off at the Antique Mall. You know, a lot of old lady antiques, a lot of really cool stuff, but again, out of our price range, are really overpriced. First section I saw for games had it was Nintendo NES, and I'm trying to think what it was, gone. Genesis, box Genesis games, and all the NES games were just sports games. They had football there for $10, so immediately I just walked away from that shit. And then all the rest was old lady antiques, or kind of cool mantique stuff, but just really expensive. So we saw the flea market part, and we're just like, this is probably where we're gonna get our pickups, and I was right, sort of. First stand we saw that sold all video games. Right when I immediately saw it, I'm like, oh crap, dude, this place looks good. And then I see the prices. First off, they're N64 games. I saw 007 GoldenEye, yeah, and it was marked for $40. That game usually sells between 10 and 15. And then they had Diddy Kong Racing for $35. All these were in like really crappy condition too, and it was just bad. So I just looked at a couple games and just walked out. You know, it was just really bad. I didn't even waste my time there. And then we saw another stand there who had a pretty interesting guy. Yeah, interesting.
Oh yeah. Oh, we went into.
I don't know. Yeah, he didn't speak English too well, and he was asking Ian, what's the camera for? And Ian said 4 times, oh, for YouTube, and then he tells them, I assume that was his son probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, these guys are from YouTube. They want to do an interview, and we're like, whoa, no.
What do you have the camera here for what?
Oh, we do a thing on YouTube.
What do you have the camera for what?
We do a thing on YouTube.
Huh?
We have a thing on YouTube.
What do you mean?
For YouTube.
Yeah.
We have a show on YouTube.
You like to show the
Interview.
We try to be like, no, we're just, kind of going around here, and we're looking at the games, and it was kind of like the other stand. Well, first the guy recommended us to go in the back to that stand. Originally at overpriced, he was like, oh yeah, they have really good selection. And then we're like, oh yeah, we were already back there. And we kind of just left it at that. And I was looking around, and most of the games were kind of like the bag, not way overpriced like the back stand was with the $40 Nightfire. But it was pretty bad. I ended up picking out, well, first I left and then we came back. That's when I got them, after we found basically nothing else except for, they had a few trading card stands there, your sports memorabilia, that type of stuff, but other than that, there was nothing really special there, mantique wise. First game is called Imagine for the NES. Picked this up, all these 3 games for about $6-7. So there's Imagine. Next is Fester's Quest for the NES. And the next one is an unlicensed game, which really sparked my eye. It's got a gold card. It's The Fantastic Adventures of Dizzy. And apparently this is like a trilogy, published by Comerica and licensed by Codemasters. Which I think Codemasters is still around, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a website. I don't know if they're related, but
yeah.
Gay. So on our way out, on our way in, I eyed up the this one co-op stand type thing. The antique mall is really weird. It's kind of like our antique world that we usually go to here in Buffalo, where in the inside building they have a lot of glass cases that there's just employees there that just open them up and sell them to you for the marked price. And I saw a bunch of trading cards in there, so on our way out I went back and I saw a price tag originally that said like $10 on it, so automatically I thought, oh wow, a huge rubber band bundle of older trading cards. That's a really good deal. And I soon found out that it was 3 for $10, which kind of, you know, depressed me a little bit, but other than that, I was happy to pick out a few. Originally, this was on the top of a bundle, and it really sparked my interest. It's a Gilbert Perreault rookie card. At first, I didn't really, when I first saw it, I didn't know if it was a rookie or not. I had a feeling it was an early one because he has no facial hair, which he, you know, later grew. So I knew it was an early one. Turns out it was a rookie card. It's in all right condition. So definitely a really, really cool pickup there, you know, considering, you know, Buffalo Sabres hometown team. Next one is a Brett Hull. It's a 1986 card. I'm sorry, no. Yeah, 1989 card of Brett Hull. And this one is a 87 of Mario Lemieux. And I picked all these up. It was 3 for $10. So basically, just a recap here at the Pickering Flea Market. Found a lot of cool stuff, mainly a lot overpriced and out of my price range. Managed to pick up a few things, kind of spent more than I wanted to, but in the end, you know, picked up some stuff to bring back to Buffalo.